across the South Coast, live from Solent University. You're listening to Solent Sports News.
Good afternoon, it's 4 o'clock and you're listening to Solent Sports News. I'm Ben Hayward with your latest headlines. After Chelsea just spent over £300 million in the January transfer window on the likes of Enzo Fernandez, Mikhailo Mudryk and Noni Madueke, Dylan Shavas gave his insight into Chelsea splashing the cash.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
Since taking over the club in the summer, Chelsea's new owner Todd Boehly has been quick to throw money at his side's problems on the pitch. Heading into tonight's game against Fulham, Chelsea sit 10th in the Premier League table. Boehly & Co spent an eye-watering £323 million in the January transfer window, seemingly buying anyone who may be able to arrest their current slide down the table. This staggering total, spent on 8 players alone, is in fact more than was spent across the German, French, Italian and Spanish top flights combined.
Mudryk! What a goal! What a goal! Mikhailo Mudryk, the man with a massive future.
That's back in by Lodi, and it's in off the post from João Felix. Oh, sweet feet, wonderful goal! Enzo Fernandez with a peach!
Fernandez shattered the British transfer record when he joined from Benfica for a mind-boggling £105 million on deadline day. Former Fulham captain and current TalkSport pundit Danny Murphy thinks the Blues have been hoodwinked into paying such a large sum for Fernandez, who only joined Benfica from Argentinian side River Plate last summer.
I think they're overpaying for players, and I still don't think the majority of their first 11 gets anywhere near City's team.
I've watched him. I did 3 of the games. I watched him live. He's decent. He's not 100 million. He's not 100 million. They've been absolutely bent over there. He's a good midfielder. He's tenacious. He's young. He gets on the ball. He's brave. So they're overspending on players. People are seeing them come, and they're just taking their pants down.
Yet, this influx of spending has also undeniably caused excitement to spread right through the Chelsea fan base. Content creator Matisse Armani says he's finally excited to be heading to the bridge again.
This is probably the first time I'm looking forward to a Chelsea game in a while. We've been not always actually even committed on the pitch in terms of a full 90, a lot of capitulations. But against Fulham at home, the crowd are going to be up. There's this new buzz around the place. I was at Stamford Bridge this morning and there's people getting their kits and getting their Enzos and Felixes. So yeah, everybody's just excited.
Incidentally, Chelsea's total expenditure on transfers this year is £544 million, which, staggeringly, is more than Fulham have spent since first being promoted to the Premier League in 2001. That total stands at £539 million. But what happened the last time these two sides met in the league?
There's the full-time whistle. Celebrations on the Fulham bench. What a night for them. They've beaten Chelsea, and that doesn't happen very often.
With Chelsea hosting Fulham tonight, we are joined live with Solent Sports News reporter Dylan Shavas. Dylan, what are your thoughts ahead of the clash?
Ben, well, to be honest with you, I'm really looking forward to it. It's got all the makings of a really, really good game. You know, Chelsea's new signings, Enzo Fernandez, Mikhailo Mudryk, I think will be making his home debut as well. But Fulham, you know, coming to this one in good form as well, coming off the back of what was an unfortunate, you know, loss to Spurs in the Premier League and a draw against Sunderland in the FA Cup. But can't underestimate how good Fulham have been this season. It should be a really tasty clash at the Bridge this evening.
Absolutely, Deal. And obviously you're stood outside of Stamford Bridge at the moment. What's the kind of aura in and around the ground?
Well, you know, it's got that feel of just heating up towards match day. There's still, I think, just under 4 hours now to kick off. So, you know, it's warming up. You can tell there's a game on tonight. Fans starting to arrive. In fact, I did see Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville arrive as part of the Friday night football team a bit earlier. But you can just tell there's an atmosphere and an aura here building up to a massive game. Absolutely.
There's no doubt about that. And obviously, putting your Fulham hat on for a moment, Dill, are there any worries about tonight? Are you nervous to come against any of the new signings at all?
I don't think nervous, you know, as much as, you know, these signings are big names. Enzo Fernandez had a great World Cup. Mikhailo Mudryk might be the fastest winger in the league, but we can't underestimate ourselves or afford to sell ourselves short either. You know, Kenny Tete, the right back, been dribbled past the least times in the Premier League this season out of any player. Tim Ream is in fine form. João Palhinha been imperious since joining from Sporting Lisbon in the summer. And, you know, up top, we've got Alexander Mitrovic, who incidentally actually didn't face Chelsea at home 3 weeks ago because he was suspended. But he's going to be back in the side tonight and hopefully he can grab us some goals.
Absolutely. And just to finish off, Dill, have you got any score predictions ahead of the match?
My heart says 2-1 Fulham, but my head says it might be 2-0 Chelsea. But I'm going to have to go with my heart and say 2-1 Fulham. I think, I've been to so many Fulham games now. I've been going for 16 years. If we won away at Stamford Bridge, that would easily go alongside, the Juventus win, the Hamburg win, and that famous Europa League run of the 2009-10 season. And winning here would just be one of the greatest nights of being a Fulham fan possible, I'd say.
Absolutely, Deal, and thank you very much for your time, mate. I really appreciate it, and let's hope it's going to be a corker.
Yeah, let's hope it's going to be a corker. It should be a great game. Come on, you Whites.
Sticking with the Premier League, it's a tough weekend for those at the bottom of the table. Fresh-faced Southampton travel to Brentford as they push for survival. Bournemouth also make a trip along the south coast as they battle with Brighton at the Amex. Everton will be hoping to turn their season around under new boss Sean Dyche when they play top-of-the-table Arsenal. New midfield recruit Jorginho could be thrown into the mix for the Gunners after a knock to defensive midfielder Thomas Partey. Southampton have had a busy deadline day as they expanded their attacking options. The club found itself in a relegation battle early on in the season and were forced into more short-term transfers than the board planned for. With more detail on the story is our reporter Adam Tilgner.
Southampton FC have failed to reach Wembley at the final hurdle as they were knocked out by Newcastle on Tuesday. Their focus will now shift towards the Premier League as they look to claw themselves up from last place in the table. The transfer deadline signings of Paul Onuachu and Kamaldeen Sulemana could prove instrumental in the relegation battle. Reporter Alfie House of the Daily Echo said getting a striker was a relief for the club.
Yeah, they're certainly in better shape than they were sort of 48, 72 hours ago. They needed that forward, and Nathan Jones was clear about wanting to add potency. He said it to us across the window. But the former manager, Ralph Hasenhüttl, said they were going to sign a striker all along in August, and that never happened. So you can never be sure. And they've got them over the line. They've got two over the line, and we were following closely with somebody close to Paul Onuachu throughout the day. And when they finally got that deal over the line, that was a bit of relief because, he's a number 9, somebody who scored a lot of goals, 30, 40 plus over the last 2 or 3 seasons in Belgium.
We have received a message on Twitter from Total Saints podcast founder Ben Stanfield, who shared his thoughts on the situation.
I don't think we can put the current situation down to just the lack of a proven striker, but it clearly has not helped. Many of the squad have underperformed and just not been good enough over the last 12 to 18 months, and collectively, that's meant lost games and dropped points, as well as a manager losing his job. I am not sure we're far away from being a decent Premier League team, but you need to have leaders, experience and real quality underpinning any squad, and we certainly lack the first 2 of those.
We have also heard from Saints Twitter Space hosts Rob and Yasmin, who discussed the transfer window.
Yeah, mate, I'd say I give it an 8, purely for timing. It's not a 10, but all that matters is we've got the players in now. Nothing we can do about the past now. Let's just crack on. 4 important games. Would have been nice to kind of let these players kind of bed in and not immediately have that weight kind of dropped on them. But they've come in for a reason. I'm sure they'll come good, and I'm really looking forward to seeing Big Paul. I cannot stress, to see that man in the flesh is going to be unreal. Viva Onacho and all that.
I would rate this window a strong 8. Strong 8. The only thing that I would change, and I really wish that we got these players in sooner, like either at the beginning of the window or even in the summer if they were available or whatever. But yeah, definitely at the beginning of the window, and then the last couple of weeks, we could have seen a big difference.
Southampton face an informed Brentford side away on Saturday before hosting Wolves next week, where the new signings will be expected to secure crucial survival points. I'll be Dan Cylinder for Solent Sports News.
Marcus Rashford has been awarded the Premier League's Player of the Month for the second time this season. The England international continued his red-hot form last month, netting 3 times, including a late winner in the Manchester derby. As well as being honoured by the Premier League, Rashford's efforts have also been noticed by his club, and he was also presented Player of the Month from his side today. Police forces have apologised for profound failings in the latest response to a 2017 report regarding Hillsborough. Evan Clem investigated further, including speaking to a Hillsborough survivor.
Yeah, I've got an explanation for what's happened here, BT. I'm going to give you a line. And the story emerges that one of the outside gates leading into that terrace was broken. People without tickets got in, were therefore overcrowding the people with tickets, and that's why the crush occurred.
Nearly 34 years on from the Hillsborough disaster, which saw 97 Liverpool fans lose their lives during an FA Cup semi-final match against Nottingham Forest, police leaders have finally issued an apology to the families of the victims. The statement by the National Police Chiefs Council and College of Policing acknowledged that their failures were the main cause of the tragedy and committed to widespread changes in the future. This comes in response to the 2017 report by the Right Reverend James Jones, a former Bishop of Liverpool, on lessons of the tragedy. Peter Scarf from the Hillsborough Survivors Support Alliance believes this has all come too late.
I think it's taken an awful long time for them to get these answers. I think 5 years is way too long, 34 years for an apology. Families have been torn apart, not just Hillsborough families who've lost their loved ones, but obviously Hillsborough survivors who've lost friends as well through suicide and the likes.
For years, South Yorkshire Police attempted to shift the blame for the fatalities onto the fans, while bereaved families have spent decades fighting for the truth to come out and justice to be served. One of the victims on the day was Andrew Brooks, and his sister thinks major changes need to be made with the police force.
I feel that until actions change at top level, high-ranking officers, chief constables, I don't think anything will ever change within the police service.
Full name's Mark Stringer, and I'm part of the Hillsborough Supporters and Survivors Alliance. I got in the ground early, 1 o'clock. I was sitting on the terrace reading my programme. Fast forward to 10 to 3, it was full. There was a big surge, a massive surge of people came through the tunnel behind me. I was pinned to a barrier.
Mark was there that day and reflected on his experience at Hillsborough and how it's affected him in the years since.
For 2 years after, I drank myself into a stupor. I drank every day, lunchtime and evening, and not. I wouldn't say I was alcoholic. I think it was more to forget what I'd seen, because obviously I saw everything.
Mark, along with many other survivors, believe the police tried to hide the truth for many years.
It was covered up, and I think it wasn't just the South Yorkshire Police. I think it was up to the highest levels of government. This is my opinion, by the way. I think if we could look into a crystal ball and see what conversations were had in Parliament Downing Street, we'd probably discover that there was an instruction to cover it up, an instruction to change, to falsify the evidence.
Who knows whether this is the end of the tragic tale of Hillsborough? What we do know is that this week's statement will be of little consolation to the bereaved families.
Locally now, and top of the league Sholing face mid-table Westbury United in the Southern League Division 1 South, 3 tiers below National League level. While second place, but with 3 games in hand, Totton host Bristol Manor Farm. On Tuesday, the top 2 will meet in a potential promotion decider. Solent University's Zach Mohammed has been selected to compete at the 2023 World Athletics Cross Country Championships in Australia. The Southampton-based star will be one of 17 athletes representing Great Britain and Northern Ireland at the tournament later this month. This will be Mohammed's first senior squad call-up. In darts now, Michael van Gerwen was defeated in the final of the first night of the new Premier League season in Dublin. Chris Hollywood Dobie was victorious, keeping his rich vein of form in the last few weeks, including winning the Masters last Sunday. Darts correspondent Dan Perry has more.
That was the sound of Chris Dobie winning Night 1 of the Premier League of Darts. The Masters champion beat Michael van Gerwen 6-5 in the final to gain the maximum number of points. Winning 3 games, he had to overcome Peter Wright and his management partner Nathan Aspinall first, which he found quite the challenge.
I knew I could come up here and win. Confidence from the Masters. I knew I could win, and I got that one in the Masters, and I knew I could do it on the big stage, and Premier League.
It has been a crazy week for the Geordie, winning the Masters on Sunday, announced as a Premier League player on Monday, and winning in Belfast on Thursday, which has been a shock for fans.
He's been there about the top past 2 years, but he's really now seems to be getting into his own.
That was darts fan Adam Tilgner.
For him to come out of the gate on his debut in the Premier League and just win on the night is really massive for him, and I'm really happy for him.
The Premier League was invented in 2005, where 8 players would face each other over the space of 7 weeks. The bottom 2 would be eliminated, and then they would all have a finals night to determine the winner. This year's tournament, however, is a bit different, with an 8-person knockout bracket each week. They are all guaranteed to meet each other over the 7 weeks, and the semi-finalists pick up 2 points, runners-up 3, and winners 5. The final night is determined through the top players in the league, playing against each other for the winning spot and prize money of £275,000. Elsewhere saw Dimitri van den Berg, Michael van Gerwen and Nathan Aspinall all pick up their first points of the tournament. Next week's ties take place in Cardiff, where Dobie will look to stay top of the league as he comes up against Gerwyn Price. Dan Perry, Solent Sports News.
Eddie Hearn has announced that Anthony Joshua will return to the ring on April the 1st. It is said that the 33-year-old is likely to face American Jermaine Franklin, with a press conference to officially be confirmed for the fight next week. Joshua lost his last 2 fights, both unified, to world champion Alexander Usyk, but Hearn still believes Joshua is capable of retaining the belt. The Six Nations are back. 6 weeks of international rugby played between England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, France and Italy. Just please ignore that voice break in there. England have a new head coach in Steve Borthwick, whilst also having a new weapon in their ranks in London Irish winger Ollie Hassel-Collins. Borthwick says that the threat of Hassel-Collins is scary and is excited for the first exposure to international rugby.
This is a guy who's over 100 kilos and 6'4", and he can hit and he can run fast. I think most of us would like to have those attributes. He's an excellent player and a fantastic young man, and he's brilliant to be in our team.
England face Scotland at Twickenham in the Calcutta Cup, whilst Wales face Ireland in Cardiff, and France are against Italy in Rome. That's all from us today. Thank you for keeping in tune with us for the entirety of the session. Remember, you can keep up to date on our website, solent.co.uk. All the best.